If you want to hear about St. Louis, tune in to the Bucket List Show weekly. Hear what Marissa and Luke say. It drops every Wednesday. Got a dope new guest every single week. Buckle up for the ride. Who's it gonna be? Who's on the show today? They rep St. Louis. What to do in the loo on a late night, or maybe what to do on a date night. Yeah, Bucket List has you covered. They know what's going on. What's going on? They'll give you, hey, 18 different things to do, or 19 if you need one more to choose. Yeah, this city is a place we call home. A place we call home, yeah.
Welcome back to the STL Bucket List Show. I am your host, Marissa Farrell.
And I am your other host, Lucas Farrell. And we're recording episode 57 right here at Half Coast Studios. Shout out to Matt in the back on the ones and twos, cutting up a perfect episode for not only YouTube, if you're watching, but also Spotify, Apple, IG, all the platforms we put this out. We couldn't do it without them. And then, of course, our friends over at the Regional Arts Commission of St. Louis. They're the largest public funder of art programs right here in St. Louis. And when you support art,
you support St. Louis. Sorry, it's spring break. It's spring break. I'm off a little bit.
Come on, we got a radio guy in here.
But I do have my I Love STL Arts shirt on today. So take a look at this. Nice swag.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we have Julian Keaton in the studio today. Julian Jewels, thank you for making the time.
Of course. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we just met a couple weeks ago, came up to the office. Now we're on the podcast, so it's just all coming full circle. So Marissa, if you want to just read a little bit about Julian Jewels, and then we can get right into it.
Yeah, so Julian Jewels. Julian Jewels is an education platform and community supporting businesses, musicians, and creative professionals in their journey towards financial self-sufficiency. It's a resource you can use to learn how to manage and operate business, advertise, and market your music-related products. Connect with other creatives and get the right strategies to build and monetize your fan base. So we're going to get in a little bit more into Julian Jewels, but first we're going to get into knowing more about Julian himself.
Yes.
So we always just start off just learning about the person in the hot seat, right? So upbringing, family life, support, what high school you went to, dare I say, all the things, Julian.
Got you. I guess I'll start with what part of town I'm from. Mm-hmm. I'm from Walnut Park, which is North City. Proudly rep it. I graduated from Carter Ritter, class of 2010. I have a brother, sister, two nephews, a niece, and my parents are still together. And so, that's pretty much it. I've lived in St. Louis majority of my life. I did a little bit in LA, a little bit in New Orleans, and I travel a lot, but I call St. Louis home, everywhere I go.
Wow. So at what point were you living in LA and New Orleans?
Yeah, so LA was summer 2010.
Okay, so right after high school.
No, excuse me, I'm gonna take it back.
Okay.
Getting the brains free. That was summer 2015.
Okay.
I don't know why I said 2010.
That's right. It's the rain. We're a little tired today.
Summer 2015, and then New Orleans was the winter of 2016.
Okay.
So
fine.
We love New Orleans.
That's our favorite. On my phone, I keep getting, your iPhone will send you memories. And I was just there a year ago with all my girlfriends.
What were you doing?
Bachelorette trip, but I just love it. I love the energy.
We don't got to talk about that on air, but no, I'm just kidding.
Those are secrets.
So, born and raised in St. Louis, that's an important part of our show. Is a lot of the people have been born here, built businesses here. They've went away, but you've came back to start a business. So, Julian Jewels, was that your first business, or how did that happen? Let's hear a little bit about the story of that. And,
Julian Jewels is my technically third business that I've launched. But I started it right after I lost my job. I did another business called Dimensions. I was just kind of beta testing it. Did that for a little bit while I was working at the Escape the Room downtown. And they claimed I no call, no show too many times. And so couldn't find a job and decided to just go live on Instagram weekly for like a year straight. And it ultimately became Julian Jewels after about a month of doing it just giving away free game. Just the whole concept of the jewel giving away knowledge. That's kind of where that came from.
Okay, so you kind of stumbled upon it. It originally just started as you just sharing knowledge from like your travels and from growing up. So that's how the best businesses start, in my opinion.
And I think we need to backtrack a little bit to what led you to LA and what led you to New Orleans, and talk a little bit about Dimensions before jumping in.
Yeah,
Sorry,
absolutely.
we got to backtrack. We got to see
No, of course,
the timeline of things.
Of course. So, and I'll kind of go back a little further just to provide some context. My second business that I really kind of like put my focus and emphasis on is a business called Stereo Assault. It was a radio show that I started with some friends back at Webster University. We did it for 5 years. It was one of the top college hip hop shows in the country.
Cool.
Through that, we did also concerts. So Run the Jewels, Foreign Exchange, Chance the Rapper, Odyssey, you name it. We booked, we brought them to St. Louis. And I was kind of getting burnt out. And so 2015 came. This is right after Ferguson. Was kind of like just burnt out completely and needed a change of pace. So with $50 in my pocket, I flew to LA with a one-way ticket and just had to figure it out. That was LA.
Oh, how'd your parents feel about that?
They were ready for me to leave.
Really?
like, go on.
Spread your wings, go ahead.
And so I had, because for them, I had just I moved back into my parents' house second semester of college.
Yeah.
And so 4 or 5 years of being there after high school, they were like, all right, it's time for you to leave.
Yeah.
So LA treated me nicely. I learned a lot about myself. It was a time for me to really reflect and just learn about myself and what I wanted. Didn't really get into any music related stuff. Didn't focus on business while I was out in LA as much as I wanted to. I just had to focus on being able to provide for myself. When I did come back for a brief period that fall, my uncle had passed. And so that's why I came back. A friend of mine who I do business with in the music space, was like, yo, I'm moving to New Orleans. If you want to come with me, tag along and then just have some fun. And so I was there for the whole season of Mardi Gras. And
best time.
It was the best time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to live there any other time.
Yeah.
But that was New Orleans. New Orleans was fun.
Yeah. So you were actually in music down there. You were helping them with shows and stuff like that, or
not necessarily. Like we had a good friend who was performing down there as a part of a second line, but I was really just down there just to like kick it and relax. Like I've been an entrepreneur since I was a kid, since I was about 12. So by the time I moved to New Orleans, it was really just like, all right, I'm gonna relax, I'm gonna breathe, I'm gonna kick back and relax, because I just never got the chance to have fun like that. And so
you were partying.
Yeah, a lot.
As you should
in better
down
words,
there, right?
he was getting lit.
As
down
you
there.
should.
It's Mardi Gras season.
It's
What do you
Mardi
expect?
Gras. What are you going to do? It's kind of built in. You have to.
So okay, that gives us a little bit of better context, because we were trying to read about it and like kind of learn a little bit more about it. So you've been to New Orleans, been to LA, came back to St. Louis, and now you're like rooted. You're one of those people in St. Louis in that music scene, and what you do is behind the scenes. Like, a lot of people in the music scene know you, but like the impact that you have on St. Louis, just by meeting you a few weeks ago and just learning more about the stuff that you guys do is incredible. So I want to learn about Julian Jewels, because that's what you're actively doing now. I know we read about it at the beginning, but if you kind of want to give us an overview of what it is, what you're doing now, because that's changed since you were doing IG Lives. It's completely different now.
Yeah.
Like I saw that you guys got a team, you got a studio, you got everything. So
yeah. So when I started Julian Jewels, again, it was just really me just sharing information, because I'd love to just give back and help people, support people that way. The very first client that I had when I launched it as a marketing agency is a guy named MC Trey. And so who's one of the owners of Hustle City. And so when he came to me, oddly enough, he was the very first artist I had ever worked with. I DJ'd his very first mixtape that he released in 2009. So it was full circle moment for us. I worked on his music video, I Told You, which became an award-winning music video here locally. That kind of led to more people kind of knowing about me and wanting to work with me, which ultimately kind of led back to me working with Mvstermind. Now, before Mvstermind really became this legend that he is now, he was the head of a collective called MME. I used to manage MME at one point in time. So this was my second go round working with Mvstermind. And so just through that, we were able to have some good, successful releases. And around that time, I started to really build my team. Around this time, I think this is 2021. So this is a year into COVID. And let me know if I need to not say COVID because of the algorithms, and you know
fine.
how that goes.
Yeah, you're fine. You're good.
But
It's the reality.
you know,
it's all good. The
happened.
the podcast is real. We can say
happened.
whatever. You can say whatever you want. You can curse. It doesn't matter. This is all unfiltered.
Well,
so.
and like so many guests that we talked to, so many genius ideas came out of COVID.
that time.
Yeah.
So we hear it a lot.
okay,
That's how we came about almost
Yeah, 100%.
as well. So
Yeah.
got you. Around 2021, I think it was like the beginning of 21. That's when me and Mvstermind started working together again, and we just was having fun. Started to build a team. At that point, when I started hiring folks again, it was maybe a team of about 8 people, mostly college students from all around the country. And yeah, we were just hungry and wanted to help our artists make money during COVID, which was music was probably one of the hardest hit sectors in the entire world because it shut down every revenue stream for them pretty much. And so we were still getting creative, still creating content, still putting it out, still putting out music. And around, I want to say May of that time of 2021, we started working with Mai Lee. And so she was like I don't want to say she was at the beginning stages, but she had pretty much finished recording her album that's now released called Friends and was needing some guidance. And so I was happy to like kind of step in and just provide that support. And that's really what we do, mostly management services for artists that we really believe in. We get hit up to do management all the time. You know, most of the time I have to kind of say no just because there isn't really much alignment for the work that I do. Because first and foremost, I'm going to be the main manager. But if it just doesn't resonate with me, I won't do it. But outside of that, we continue to do marketing for a ton of artists, mostly folks here in St. Louis, but we also work with a ton of recognizable names throughout the industry that are based in New York and LA and the DMV and kind of everywhere, even far out as overseas. I've had the pleasure to work with some non-music related businesses over the last like year and a half, which has been really fun to do. And that's kind of a passion. Like my parents met at an entrepreneurship program. I'm an only legacy child of that program. So like me being able to just like, I want to see entrepreneurs win. And so I'm happy to kind of open up my services more and more to non-creatives in that fashion. So recently we opened up a recording studio in the Grove called the Julian. I'm super excited
I love that name.
Thank you. We're just getting it off the ground. Like we're still kind of building it out, but it's operational. We've had a good number of folks using it. I'm excited for the residency program that we're building out for it. So with that, we're looking at 3 to 6 artists a year, providing them space to record. I think up to about 144 hours is what we're looking at over a course of like a 3 to 6 month period of just free recording time. They get to work with me and my team pretty closely. And all we're asking for is a cut of their publishing and the master that they're going to cut. And for us, and that'll be a short-term period, but we're going to, with the team that I've built, we're going to leverage it and get as many sync opportunities for artists and really help them push and get a national and international profile. So
Who should apply?
How do they, who and how do they get in contact to apply for that?
Yeah, so we haven't created an application process for it yet. I think the first cohort are going to be folks that I personally work with. A good number of them were Master Camp participants. If you don't know what Master Camp is, it was a 6-day artist boot camp that is kind of head by Mvstermind, but I'm one of the main people that manage it. 45 musicians from all over really the country, but mostly from St. Louis. And we just kind of send them through this performance-based boot camp. And so we were trying to figure out, because initially it was going to be like them going into a studio and making music, but we ultimately decided to just make it performance-based, but I still wanted to offer a space where artists could develop their sound and have a space to record. And so that's why the first cohort that we've kind of been building out have been folks from that
people
group.
that you've known and met, and then after that you can kind of build momentum. Yeah. But there's something special about building a space, and I say this quote all the time, but it's if not us, then who? If not now, then when? So, nobody's going to build a space. You have to do it. And what you're doing is you're building the space, and it's cliche and all, you build it, they'll come, but they're going to come. And when they come, you're going to have all these people come through the studio, and you're going to find talent. And really what you're doing is the 144 hours or however many hours is that you're giving these younger artists, older artists, whoever it is not only is it saving them money, but it's giving them access to producers and engineers that they wouldn't be able to afford, you know? So just creating a space.
And to touch on that, right? Like we're working with some of the most sought after engineers in the area. We're working with some of the top musicians in the space. And even then it's like, it's not too often you'll get to work with someone like me who's pretty well known in the industry, is super connected, and I have to come out of your pocket. Right. And so we're super excited about that. And even then, outside of the residency program, one of the things that I definitely want to touch on is the fact that it is a private studio. So you have to be a member of the Julian Jewels membership platform. Through that, though, it's a ton of educational, like, again, all of the Julian Jewels episodes that we did from Instagram are in it. There's constant other information, templates, webinars, panels that I've done over the 10 years I've been in the space that's in it. And then again, you get access to me and my team, and through that you get to book the studio. So, and it's extremely cheap. It's $30 a month. So, you know, like you're not gonna get that all around suite of resources from anywhere in the country. And so, I'm excited to have it off the ground and be able to support folks.
And making it an affordable opportunity for people who are pursuing music.
And really it's a community, because when we spoke about it off air, you had mentioned like there's ways to ask questions in there's ways to connect with other members. So the price of it, like it doesn't even matter how much it costs, you know, because people will pay, they'll package it up $9.97 or whatever it is, but like the monthly price to get access to the community. And then once you're in that community, then you can ask for shows, or if you're booking a show, you're like, hey, we need an extra act, boom, it's just everybody's trading resources. So I think that's inspiring.
So when you were away from home figuring out like is this something that you ever saw like in your future? Yeah.
Funny enough, I want to say it was about 2 years ago. I had came across my 10-year goals. Well, let me paraphrase. It was a goal list that I had written out when I graduated from high school. And in my 10-year like grouping was to either launch a record label or open up a recording studio. And it was like one of the only things that I didn't get done 10 years after graduating from high school. And so I was like, all right, I got to get this done. So
now
back.
2-3 years
Doesn't
later.
matter when, you just got it done.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So, you know, beyond Julian Jewels, I mean, what is, and I'm sure you have more goals, but like, what's the vision going into the next few years of like how you're going to expand your footprint? Is it the studio? Is it the cohort? Is there more stuff that you guys are planning on doing?
With Julian Jewels, that's a very big question. So, a number of things. I think the big thing that I'm super excited the most about is a initiative. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be saying this, so I hope that it's okay.
If we need to go back, we can go back,
I think it'll be fine. But a good friend of mine named Jamarco Britton, he runs an organization called Soul Shed STL. Him and I have known each other for well over probably close to 12, 13 years now. And so after I don't even remember what exactly sparked it, but we were trying to figure out like, what does the scene really need musically, the music scene need here in St. Louis to kind of elevate and get the respect that we deserve, because St. Louis music has impacted the world for the last 100 years. Everything in popular music has roots here in St. Louis, and there's a number of systematic reasons why things have not really changed for musicians here, specifically Black and brown musicians. And so we've been meeting up quite frequently over the last like 6-7 months to figure out like, what does that look like to build out an initiative that organizes and create action and inspires and educate not just musicians, but the much larger populace here in St. Louis of like how important St. Louis music is. And so we're created a initiative called St. Louis Music Alliance. And so through that, we're looking to this year mostly just prioritize getting people to go to these historical institutions, whether that's Vintage Vinyl or Scott Joplin House, Miles Davis House, the National Blues Museum, things like that, just to get people aware of what's here. But from there, it's like, all right, now that folks know the history, let's start to see what do people really need. So we can start to organize and socially, politically, and economically advocate for the things that we need. Right. So that's one of the big things that I'm super excited to be working on over the next few years. We one of the beautiful things about the space that we're currently in now, it's Tech Artista Studios. I love Chris Holt over there. He's an amazing person. And when I came to him, I was like, hey man, like there isn't a venue that's really like fostering an underground culture. I want to throw some shows here. And he was completely for it. So fingers crossed.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, you told me about the space. It's small, but it'll be those intimate shows. It'll be that starting ground for a lot of people.
And so I'm excited to kind of start there because like ultimately, I think what's going to happen as we start to morph and build that out is I want to kind of have a space that's artist owned, like a co-op of some sort where artists can, whether that's us having our own space to have a bigger studio, to having a space where people can perform, whether that's a 50 cap room to a 200, 300 cap room. Right. Those are kind of...
Have a meeting there, whatever they need to do.
Yeah. It's a co-working, like a music-based co-working space called Rec Philly in Philadelphia. Okay. That has a great model that we're trying to ultimately imitate here locally because they do an excellent job with what they do up there.
That is awesome. I love that idea.
So in that, of everything you just explained about the alliances, like you're hosting these town halls and you're hosting these meetups. So tell our listeners a little bit about, how they can get involved, whether they're in the music scene or not. Like they just show up to these town halls. Can they support on social? Like, give us some jewels on that.
Yes. So we're looking at hosting town halls a lot more frequently. So for sure, probably once or twice a month. And then once a month, we're doing a program, a group visit program. So I think in April, we're doing the Jazz Institute at Heristo, which is they're reopening or they got a new facility. So they'll be reopening in mid-April. So it'll be a good opportunity to get the community out to that.
I'm out.
I forget what we're doing in May. But in June, we're doing a musical heritage bus tour. So we're getting a commercial bus and getting about 30 to 40 people on the bus and visiting different stops throughout the city throughout a day in June. Stuff like that. Yeah. That's the biggest.
Just activating it and staying consistent. Because was it you that told me about Chuck Berry's house?
I don't think that was me.
In North City? Somebody told me to go visit.
That was
Was that Dave?
Yeah,
it was somebody, but I'm like, I didn't know his house was still there. It's still owned by their family. Dave. I need to go check that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's inspiring. And that's the thing is like, we don't have the infrastructure in our city and government to do these things. So it takes people like you. And it's a lot of pressure though. There's a lot of pressure in you doing that because now everybody's like, all right, Julian, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? But you have this team and you're building this community. But the pressure is a privilege, to have that pressure to be able to put these things on. And in the back of your head, you have to be so motivated because it's not business and ROI driven, it's community driven. It's not like, I'm going to make a bunch of money if I do this. It's just, hey, I'm going to make a big impact.
I want to touch on that, right? Because one of the things in the last town hall, the virtual town hall that we did a few weeks back, someone had one of the suggestions, because we had an open forum, was how about you have ambassadors host these town halls, right? Because then that kind of removes you from having to do everything. And so that's kind of like the headspace that I'm in now more than ever, is because my plate is extremely full of like, how do we get the community to have a role, right? And so that's what we're super excited. We kind of took a step back in rolling out all of our programming, launching the initiative fully. I feel comfortable sharing it now because we've talked about it a little bit, but it's like, it's a community thing. It's a communal. And the more that we can get the community to play a role and a process in it, the quicker we'll get to being able to really organize and advocate for the things that we need as a community.
Sure. Yeah, it's like that mindset of, okay, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. And sometimes you get the ball rolling and you're like, hold on, let's see who we can put in place to kind of help so I can focus.
And Brian Owens touched on that.
Which I was just about to say when Brian Owens is here and he said, his 80-20 rule was
like, if I put 80% into it and then hand it off and then I'm 20%, and he was talked about his family and his businesses, but it's like everything he treats as the 80-20 rule. Is like, I'll put 80% of my effort into this or I'll put 20% and then somebody else, I'll fill that spot that can be that 80%. So you start things, you're just creating things and then you're handing them off, because it's bigger than just you. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I was going to ask, I think just more of a sensitive question that you have here is like, what does the music scene in St. Louis mean to you?
Oh man, it means a lot. I think a lot of who I am as a person is the music scene, or I should say is can be seen in the music scene. It's a heart thing. It's a soul thing. I think the musicians that come out of St. Louis are probably the most talented musicians you're ever going to see in the world. And the things that they say, like when you really listen to the story. So like, I remember having a meeting with someone, or even, I think it was even in the town hall. I'll talk about the town hall. There was a guy in the town hall who kind of, to a small extent, talked down on this subgenre of hip hop, pretty much called drill music, right? St. Louis drill or high speed music. And that's like I think the LA Foes and the AMRD Hunchos and folks like that, right? They talk a lot about crime and all of that. And to an extent, what I remember saying was like, you have to give a space and a place to allow that to exist, because it tells a story and a narrative that people don't always see. That's like a real harsh reality that people in St. Louis go through. And if you don't get that, then we're living this fairy tale reality that's not real. And so we have to have space for that. But in that same breath, we need also the folks like a Tef Poe, who's going to keep it real and speak his heart and speak his soul. And then you're going to have folks like Mvstermind, who's going to come with you super conscious, inspirational, stuff like that. And then even then you have the dynamics of like having a Mai Lee, who can have fun with it and be sexy with it and do whatever she wants to be free and to kind of let folks know that you can do that.
Right.
So I love the fact that St. Louis can be diverse in that way, and that we don't hold anything back. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that when shit get real, usually it's the St. Louis music scene that's first on the front lines every single time when there's a social issue. And that means a lot. That means a lot.
That's good. And I think that's true, is because when you're listening to music, and we listen to so much different music, and like sometimes I'll be in the car and I'm like, what are you listening to? And it will be drill music. And then she'll be listening to Mumford & Sons the next day. It's like all by a mood.
It's a diverse palette.
But it is crazy, because you're talking about those guys, and I've followed those guys and like watched their music videos, but like they only live 15 minutes away from where I live. You know, I live in South City. They might live in North City, but that music's going on there, where in South City it might be a completely different sound. It's where these people are from, and it's what they see. It's
their stories.
And you'd be surprised how much of that influences South City, South County, West County, because you're starting to see people take on, little things to imitate folks, because they see it and respect it.
Yeah.
So. And
Tef Poe is very inspirational. I went and met with him at that co-working space on Wash Ave. He had like a little spot up there, but what he's doing with the magazine, and is that the Black Man Build magazine?
Yep. Yeah. I forget what's the exact name. Wartime, I think, is the name of that magazine.
It's incredible. And like the work, the creatives that they get involved in that. And then like they literally hit the streets and hand those out. Like Tef Poe would be a really great guest to get on here for sure. He's been doing the thing for a long time. So like you probably known him forever. Like I feel like he's been in the scene forever. So no, that's super inspiring. So I love that question, because it's like you talked about the music scene, but now it's like what it means to you.
What have been some of the challenges that have come?
Oh, that's a great question.
Be honest.
Yeah, like I always like to talk. I mean, there's so many beautiful moments and stories that build what you are and who you are and what you guys stand for. But with those successes, there's tear down and there's struggles. Yeah. And so we can touch on, I guess, both the beauties and the nightmares.
This isn't necessarily a St. Louis thing. This is a human thing. But when people see you successful, they try to tear you down.
Absolutely.
And so I've had to go through that a lot over the last 3 years. And so all I can really do is kind of keep my head up through it all. That's one of the biggest things, is that people just don't like others being happy or seeing them successful. And folks try to be slick and be in the shadow realm and do dark and sneaky stuff, right?
You have the haters or your motivators mentality.
And even then through that, you have to stay positive and not necessarily keep a smile, but you got to understand that it's much bigger than just you.
Yeah.
Another, I think, challenge or struggle has been, there have been times where people may not like my approach. So I feel like Tef would be okay with me saying this, but even then there was a time when Tef and I didn't see things the same way, right? And so we had our own little like public spat, but we work it out. And so, and I think that's kind of the important thing is that you always try to make it work for the betterment of the community, because we both occupy a space in the community that's super relevant and important. So folks do have to come together and make it work.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to talk about you a little bit more. So, you're a multifaceted creative, from video games to tech to music to culture to neighborhood development and, all these things that you're doing. So first of all, how do you balance it all? And I'm asking for a friend myself. And then also, how have you pivoted? Because I feel like the word pivot has been used during the pandemic a lot more, but like people have pivoted so many different times as technology advances, as we get these different tools. So I know that's a kind of a 2-part question, but how do you balance it all first? And then we can go into how you've pivoted over time.
Okay. Balance. It's a great question because, I want to say what's super interesting is that when I was a freshman at Webster, I was a part of 10 student organizations, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
But I was able to maintain a 3.9 GPA.
Okay.
Incredible.
A lot of that just came from, having a to-do list, making sure that my calendar is constantly updated. Yeah. And just being honest and real with myself and giving myself grace, because I know not every day I'm gonna be able to get to everything, but to be able to delegate when things aren't right. That's kind of how I handle balance. I don't remember the second question.
The second one, and I like that you said with the to-do list. I mean, if you look at my binder, like I write everything down physically because there's something about writing it. But if it doesn't make it to the calendar, it doesn't happen.
You're still
and even in it, to your point, right? So for me, like I love to write things down. It definitely helps, but I also have a project management system. That to where if I need to delegate, I can do. All right, my employee X, I need you to take care of that for me.
Yeah, and just tag them, do the little ad, and be like, hey, can you get this done for me? So, all these different things, like really the thing is in entrepreneurship is we do take on too much ourselves and we don't have time like for relationships and family and stuff like that. So it's good to kind of hit those buckets and make sure that you're delegating the stuff that either somebody else is probably more fit to do that or even more efficient at that task. So it's hard to give up stuff, but if you're never going to scale unless you give up some of those tasks. But then the other question I had was pivoting. So you've done, you had the video game we talked about a little bit off air. Not I don't know if it's called a video game, but you had the platform. And then you've had, tech, music, management, creating platforms, creating coaching. So how have you pivoted over time? And just give us a little insight on how like that was hard for you or easy to make that pivot, and just kind of go into that a little bit.
It isn't really hard because I feel like I've been doing the same thing my whole life. I can't say that I knew I was going to do music at a young age, but I remember the moment that I fell in love with music, and ever since then, that's what's been my life. And so even with Dimensions, right? So to kind of, because I don't think we talked about it on here, I want to touch on it a little bit because I think that's super important. Dimensions, or Seek Dimensions is how it's branded online, is a mobile app social platform designed to help college students and transplants get acclimated to new cities, new neighborhoods, things like that. And so we do it via scavenger hunts, choose your own adventure games, things like that. When the idea first came about for it was in 2016 when I had just got back from New Orleans. For me, it was like I just came back from being in two places I didn't know anyone. How do folks get acclimated? And Pokemon Go kind of popped up on the scene.
Oh, that was
I remember
huge.
that.
Right. And so it was like, all right, I see something in this AR that I might have to use and leverage. And so a few years later in 2018, we did a series of scavenger hunts in Grand Center, Central West End, and Cherokee Street. And so if you completed one of those 3 scavenger hunts, it led to a secret location music concert, right? So it's always been about the music, right?
Yeah, it was always
but it just gave you access. So when I say video game, it's way more than a video game. It's another community platform for the people that are at the SLU or at WashU that they could play this, and then they could get access to these exclusive shows that they would not be able to.
And long term, even with that, right, it's much larger than just serving college students and transplants, because that's just the easy access point. That's the easiest way to build a user base, is because they're right there, right? Especially a city like St. Louis, where the whole city is kind of structured around SLU and specifically WashU, right? So, but like long term for us, it's like, how do we? And this is going to be a game that's going to be worldwide at some point. But like, how do we build community? That was the question that I asked myself as I was building out this platform, right? And so one of the big things was, if you're learning about a neighborhood or a community, you're going to want to also provide your input and your feedback about what can make that community better once you've kind of experienced it a bit. And so we're creating ways in which people can provide feedback, mostly through art. So like one of the super cool things like Javen Sullivan and I've have talked about is like, how do we incorporate like what he's doing with Lutopia into a platform like Dimensions, where people can come and build out their own 3D art assets in this platform that ultimately allow people to envision the community the way that they would want, for us to then be able to talk to community improvement districts and real estate developers and actually
make it happen
and
build out what the community wants, and not just what the billionaire at the that runs
people
the
who
city.
are living here, even.
Well, you're taking survey, and I was just with Javen yesterday. He's he lives in our neighborhood, but he was talking about Lutopia and the vision for that, and I don't think he shared it publicly yet, but what he's doing with the AR with that is incredible. And like, it's cool. Like the picture's cool, but it's like, it goes beyond like the before and after picture. So shout out. And he's an active listener, so he'll be listening to this one too. He loves these podcasts. He's like, dude, I love the podcast. Like some people like long form stuff, but some people will just watch us. Some people are going to watch the IG clip and share it and then be like, oh, that was so fire, knowing damn well they did not listen to the whole thing.
I'm going to DM you. If you share it, I'm going to DM you. And I ask you to go listen to it.
What do you think of this part?
Right. So no, that's cool to get a little bit more insight on that. So that's what I mean by multifaceted. So you've created these different things, and you pivoted, and now you're focusing on, the Music Alliance and stuff like that. Because it's really hard if you're not going to give it that 100% to make something happen. Right. Like now you're realizing, you're like, let me get this built, and then we can make this app happen. But yeah, Javen would be perfect for that. I mean, his stuff is insane. He did the gyms, didn't he do the gym stuff?
He did the
Mvstermind?
Gyms XR experience. Yeah. No, me and Javen, we have yet to sit back down since that initial sit down. So if you listen,
you gotta talk to him.
Let's talk.
I'm going to shift a little bit to Elevate and WePower.
Okay.
Is that part of Dimensions, or is that did that help with when you were working on that, or is that a part of Julian Jewels as well?
Yeah, so I hope I didn't cut you off. Okay. No. So Elevate LOR was a part of the inaugural class. If you don't know what it is, I think it's now a 10-week accelerator program for Black and Latinx entrepreneurs. Dimensions was picked up out of that first group of 10. It was tough because, for at least my experience, was a little hard because, one, I've been a serial entrepreneur majority of my life. I come from entrepreneurship, so a lot of what they were, information that they shared with me, I already knew. Yeah. A lot of the people they tried to connect with me, I already knew. Okay. But for a new entrepreneur that needs assistance and need a network, it's the perfect program for you. But yeah, Julian Jewels wasn't a part of it. I kind of had to tell him because that was I think they had us, the very first class that we had of the program was, I think, the day or two before the world shut down for COVID. And so the program got completely kind of like pivoted.
To online.
And so I was just like, hey, a lot of the things that you all promised, I can't necessarily use anymore. So I kind of have to shift my priority a bit and focus on Julian Jewels because that was what was feeding me.
Yeah.
And they understood that, and it's no love lost, no bad blood, but that's just what it was. Yeah. And I still really love the folks over at WePower. I think they do amazing work. And if you are interested in a Black or brown entrepreneur, you should definitely apply.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I read on your website, I read the whole website basically, but you're passionate about storytelling. You talk about storytelling a lot. And I think that's what's helped you, shift into businesses because everybody needs to tell a story to sell something.
Yeah.
But how can a young artist leverage storytelling in their music, or would this be through their social? Like, what jewels would you give to this young artist? Like, it's probably on one of his live videos if you guys sign up for the membership.
Yes,
but
it is.
But how can they leverage? Like, if I'm a young artist and I'm coming to you, like, man, my music's fire. I got no listeners, but but you're like, you need a storyteller. You need to tell a story that people want to be a part of. So just give us a little jewel on that.
Yeah. So one of the most effective content pillars on TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts is this like storytelling narrative around whatever that you want to talk about. Most times it's usually a song where it's like, my girlfriend broke up with me and this is what happened, right? Those types of content.
And then it goes into the music.
And they tell the full story of how it got them to writing the song, and then it kind of plays out with the song, right? That's one of the best ways to kind of do it, because it allows people to see that, one, you're human, right? That and more likely somebody else has gone through that experience. And so if you do that enough, it's going to resonate with the audience that you want to build specifically for that song or that project, whatever the case may be. Then the question is, how do you do that for a whole, for you as a brand? And that's just doing it consistently, having a budget to produce what's commonly called a video EPK, right? Where you can kind of tell your story in a 3-minute sequent video, right? There's a number of ways you could do it, but at the end of the day, just be who you are and true to yourself. Tell your story. Don't try to be anyone else, because there's going to be someone that can resonate and feel you.
Yeah.
Well said.
And people can see right through it. And
Definitely.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and everybody wants to be a coach or an entrepreneur coach, but they haven't built anything. So build something and then tell a story about it once you've built it, because people want to take advice from people that have what they want and have been where they've been. People are coming to you for advice, not because you're in the industry, because you've been through stuff, and you could probably save them a lot of struggle and a lot of, and you can struggle a lot, or you could just ask people that have been there, and then you can get there a lot quicker.
And that's the value proposition of Julian Jewels in our membership, is that we streamline communication to everything, all the information and the knowledge and what you need to do to get you where you want to go. You don't have to scramble looking up, doing Google searches for 2 years. It's all right there in the membership.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really keen about is streamlining information and knowledge.
Yeah. No, that's amazing.
Oh.
Storytelling. I love it.
All right. Any upcoming projects to know about? I know you touched on just some of the things you were doing in June or April and June.
Anything you can share? Can you drop a jewel so we can get some views, man? Come on. We want to break some news.
I think that music alliance was key.
Yeah.
I guess I'll share with you the vision, the long-term vision for the launch project of Dimensions, the launch campaign for Dimensions. I'll share that with you.
Okay.
So I've been working on, well, I can't say just but since 2017, I had been hosting a series of jam sessions at Webster University. I hope they don't smack me on my wrist for doing this. But we would host these jam sessions that would be 50 to 75 musicians deep, and just let people just shed. And so we have over 20 hours of music that we're kind of sorting through and figuring out like what to keep and what to release. And ultimately what we're going to do is through Dimensions, we're going to release the music in the game. We're going to gate it behind different activations to where you might have to go to Vintage Vinyl and Crate Dig, and using the technology, you'll be able to access the music or a music video, right?
Find like a QR code on the back of a vinyl.
Yeah.
Right. But what that does is it unlocks a clue for where a Secret Location Music Festival will be. And so the closer that we get to the date of that festival, and the more that you complete these scavenger hunt activations, more clues about the location gets presented to you, whether that's the location or a artist or a headliner or the food that'll be there. That's one of the things that I can.
That's so fun.
That's amazing. That's so smart, because like anybody can make an app that has like a music calendar on it, but like you're creating an activity
And
around
it gets people into the spaces, and it get, like.
Are you a tech guy? Are you?
I am not a tech guy.
I was going to ask if you had a background in engineering or
not at all.
No,
not at all. Just visionary.
Okay, because I was going to say like finding the people that can actually build that, because a lot of people have an idea for something, but then being able to like portray it through to somebody else to be like, this is what we're building. Yeah. And finding great people, probably at WashU or anybody. There's a ton.
And I am looking for folks. So if you're interested, if you're a techie and you code, like I'm still looking for folks that I could even put on my cap table.
Yeah.
So
no, that would be huge, because like projects like that, and we've had ideas for apps, and we're just really just trying to build our brand, build the community, build the brand, and then introduce a product, because it's the easiest way to, like nowadays it's like you have to have a community to have a product. So, but there's so many ideas of a calendar, but it's like you could just go to online to find a calendar. So it has to be something that's like has value and has like a way where people are literally in the street. Like when Pokemon was going on, people were like running around the street, like with their phones, like walking in the middle of the road, like crazy stuff. Like, remember that? Mm-hmm. That shit was crazy.
It was popping. People still do it.
Yeah.
So it is the STL Bucket List Show. Everybody gets to give gems and jewels on their favorite spots in St. Louis.
Yes. You're really playing on the jewels there today.
That'll be the episode name. It. Yeah, that'll be the episode name. We'll have to. We always come up with like a really cool little episode name, so it'll be something with jewels in it for sure. But STL Bucket List means something different to everybody. It's not like bucket list spots before you die or whatever. It's just your favorite spots in St. Louis, whether that be music venues, whether that be food, restaurants, or even just if somebody comes in town, like these are the spots that I'm hitting. Yeah. So you were writing you got a list. He's got this, and we're going to put this list out online. So y'all are going to be able to go to these same exact spaces. So if you just want to run through your STL bucket list, and then I have one more question after that for you too.
Perfect. So one bucket list thing that I think everybody should do if they're either a resident or if they're not from St. Louis is check out a Black Spade performance at the Blank Space. Mm-hmm. It's one of the best things you can do for your life. The Dark Room Unplugged series, shout out to Alonzo. He's done an amazing job curating that Unplugged series. It is a pizza shop. They used to be on Cherokee. Now they're kind of just doing their mobile thing, but a pizza spot called Master Pizza. Probably some of the best pizza you're going to get in the world. Teatopia, St. Louis Hop Shop, Mai Lee Restaurant.
Yep. Hell yeah.
Hustle City and Sanctioned in the City Foundry is another. High Point Diner is one of my favorite restaurants. I'm a sucker for Mi Ranchitos in U City. SLU basketball games. So like I love just going to SLU basketball games, whether that's men or women with my family. Mm-hmm. Soulard Farmers Market. I used to go every week growing up. Cahokia Mounds is something that's super.
Just did that
for the first time.
Very
it was dope.
Cool. Yeah.
And then smoking hookah at Taste of Lebanon in Central West End.
Okay, that's cool.
All great new spots. That
nobody's gave those spots. That'll be a good list to put out for sure. So out of those, we're gonna have to check those off because we're working on our summer list right now. We're gonna do new things, new restaurants, new things. Yeah. Let's go smoke some hookah. Taste of Lebanon. It's been a while since I smoked some hookah.
It's been forever.
It's that place across the pageant. That was the last time I did it.
Where it is.
Yeah. There was that place across from the pageant.
Yeah.
And then the Dark Room. We're gonna be going to a show there. I think Mai Lee's playing there Friday.
Yep,
so this past Friday when this comes out. So yeah, man. And then the other question I was gonna ask is if somebody comes in town, where would you take them? But those are probably the same spots that you would take people.
That's any of those are good places to go.
Yes, they are.
So the last thing that I want to know is I'm 18. I'm a young artist. I want like 3 action items right now that I can go. I don't have any music out. I got a bunch of ideas. Like, what would you tell an 18-year-old artist that came up to you and was like, hey, I just need like 3 action items and I'll go do it right now?
Get a membership at Julian.
First, plug. Get that membership.
Don't be afraid to create content. A lot of artists are afraid to create content.
Yeah, they are.
And they have a lot of anxiety around a camera and a cell phone. But that's the easiest way to grow a following and grow a brand in today's climate. And then thirdly is to get out and perform. A lot of people want to put out a shit ton of music. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, great example is there's an artist named Jada Mall. who he was, I think, 15 years old when he reached out to me when I was doing my radio show, and he was like, yo, I want you to manage me. At the time, I wasn't managing anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, invite me to your first show, and, you know, we'll just go from there. And so went to his first show, it blew me away. And so I tell folks all the time, it's not the music that'll get me. It'll be performing and you giving an amazing show. You do that, you're going to win people over.
Right. Each time it's like laying a brick every show. And it's like, even people in St. Louis, it's like they might do 25 shows over the summer, you know, but you're earning fans, even if it's just one fan each show, you know?
Be smart about it. Don't oversaturate yourself.
Well, yeah, doing too many shows.
But create music that will do well live, because that'll at least give you a shot at longevity if this is the career that you want.
Yeah. Boom.
Do you ever miss making music?
No, I didn't even show him my music video, but no, I used to make music in high school for sure, and I used to DJ too. So
nice.
We'll drop the link for that.
we'll drop the good oldies
from Winsville, Missouri. Yeah, that was bad. But yeah, 100%, guys, check it out. If you just want to drop like your website and your Instagram, have people follow you, and then of course, guys, just support local music in St. Louis. That's all we can say. Is it's not hard. It's not expensive to go to these shows. A lot of them are free or $5, $10, $20 to go. So yeah, just give us your social tags.
Yeah. So if the Jewel Mind, so that's going to be Julian Jewels.com, JulianJewelscom. That's on all socials. That's the studio and the membership platform. You can find me everywhere on the internet at JulianKeaton. It's simple. It's just my name. Mm-hmm. Find me everywhere.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Episode 57 of the STL Bucket List Show. We drop every single Wednesday, and we only focus on real, raw conversations with real people in St. Louis. The STL Bucket List Show, highlighting the people, places, and events that make St. Louis special. Shout out to the Regional Arts Commission of St. Louis for allowing us to record in this wonderful space right here at Half Coast Studios. We have a neon sign. We got everything, guys. This is our favorite time of the week. So we'll see you guys next Wednesday.
Today they rep St. Louis, yeah. They rep St. Louis. They rep St. Louis.